The history of Kaizen. Kaizen was formed in Japan after the following World War II between Japan and United States in the Pacific. The incident of atomic bomb by United States on Japan's city of Hiroshima and Nagasaki have led them to win the war and make the Japanese Emperor of Hirohito declaring surrender. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki were having massive destruction after the bombing run that killed millions of Japanese people. After World War II, in order to help restore the nation of Japan, American occupation forces brought in American experts of statistical control methods that were familiar with the War Department's training within industry (TWI) training programs. TWI programs included job instructions, standard work, and job methods process improvement. Kaizen begins after World War II when Toyota first implemented quality circles in its production process. American business and quality management teachers who visited the country back then partly influenced such implementation of quality circle that implemented by Toyota. A quality circle is a group of workers performing the same or similar work who meet regularly to identify, analyze, and solve work-related problems. This revolutionary concept became very popular in Japan in the 1950s. Now, it continues to exist in the form of Kaizen groups as well as similar workers' participation scheme. The term Kaizen actually became famous around the world through the work of Masaki Imai. Masaki Imai was born in 1930, is a Japanese organizational theorist and management consultant. His work on quality management, specifically on Kaizen, is well known. In 1985, he founded the Kaizen Institute Consulting Group (KICG) to help Western companies introduce the concepts, systems, and tools of Kaizen. At present time, the Kaizen Institute team has applied the Lean methodology and Kaizen training courses to virtually all business sectors throughout the globe. The definition of Kaizen. The word Kaizen means continuous improvement. It's come from Japanese word kai, which means change or to correct, and zen, which means goods. It refers to continuous improvement and examine constantly going on in the organization that stresses on the effective waste management. According to Yasuhiro Mandan, Kaizen Costing is a cost reduction system. He defines Kaizen Costing as the maintenance of present cost level for products currently being manufactured via systematic effort to achieve the desired cost level. Kaizen Costing is a technique of controlling the incurred over unproductive activity and resource which does not add any value to the organization. In simple words, it is a practical approach to solving cost-related problems to improve the overall efficiency by the organization. Kaizen is a system that involves the whole organization from top management to the bottom. It is a system that involves all employees, from senior management to the junior management, or from the senior management to the janitorial crew. Everyone is encouraged to come up with small improvement ideas and recommendations on the regular and continuing basis. Kaizen also involves setting standards and then continually improving those standards. To support the higher standards, Kaizen also involves providing the training, materials, and supervision that is needed for the employees to achieve the higher standards and maintain their ability to meet those standards on an ongoing basis. It is implemented with objective of determining cost reduction targets and cooperation of staff in all levels. Kaizen costing has 5 core elements. The first element is teamwork. Second element is self-discipline or personal discipline. The third element is improved morale. The fourth element is quality skills. And last element is improvement suggestion. For the company that want to implement Kaizen costing, they need to ensure that their company has these 5 core elements. Lacking of these 5 core elements will affect the effectiveness of Kaizen costing. And lacking of the elements will affect the benefit that they can get when implementing the Kaizen costing. By having the strong 5 core element in their company, they will get the maximum benefit that they can get when they're implementing the Kaizen costing. The purpose of Kaizen costing. The first one is to reduce actual cost to manufacture a product below the standard cost. Standard cost system generally aim to achieve the cost standards set by the management, while Kaizen costing systems are more concerned with reducing actual costs below standard costs. The second one is to determine cost reduction and usually compares it with real results for maintaining standard and also enhancement for the production. The third one is quality improvement, cost improvement and delivery improvement. By reducing the cost of the production, the management can focus on the quality and delivery of the production of the product.
Hi guys, do you know what the three pillars of Kaizen costing? You wanna know? Let's begin. The first pillar of Kaizen costing is a housekeeping. Housekeeping is a process of managing the workplace for improvement purpose. It is where value is added to the product or services before passing them to the next process where they are formed. Now, let's get know the 5S framework under the housekeeping. The first one is sort. Sort is categorizing the item based on their necessity. The unnecessary item should be liberated and needs to be moved out of the organization. This item can be sold to the staff or as a scrap else can be dumped by the organization. Second is threaten. The organization is left with essential items, so these have to be arranged in orderly manner for simplifying the operation. On to the next S, which is shine. Shine here refers to maintaining cleanliness in the workplace. It creates a positive work environment for the employees. Next is standardize. One of the most vital tasks is to establish standards for cleanliness, usability, and maintaining the placement of items in day-to-day business operation. The last one is sustain. The final step is to communicate and educate the employees about the changes made, thus developing a self-control and discipline among them to maintain and follow the set standard. Do you wonder what is the benefit of using 5S framework? Let me tell you. First, improve ergonomic and workplace safety. Second, it enhances self-management. Third, promote flow. Fourth, encourage visual control. Fifth, it enhances quality of product and services. The second pillar of Kaizen costing is waste. Waste is the resources at each process which is non-value adding activity, which is classified as mudah. So this is the possible causes of each of the 7 types of waste. The causes for overproduction are line imbalance and high capacity machine. As for transportation, the causes are poor office layout and also complicated material flow. As for waiting, the causes are manpower shortage and also inflexible workforce. For processing, the causes are unclear work instruction and client specification. For motion, the causes are poor housekeeping and non-standardized work routine. As for defect, the causes are incapable processes and also lack of process control. The last one is inventory. It is caused by long lead time and also imbalanced line. The third pillar of Kaizen costing is standardization. Standards are set by management, but they must be able to change when the environment changes. Dramatic improvement can be achieved by reviewing the standard periodically, collecting and analyzing data on defect.
Types of Kaizen costing. So there is two types of Kaizen costing, which is asset-oriented and product-oriented. So for asset-oriented, Kaizen costing activities often and directed as per the requirement of the firm's ordeal. So organizations as the competitive pressure will force the firms to reduce the price of the products over time, and any possible savings in the cost facilitate in achieving the intended profit margin will continually working on reducing costs. So next is product oriented. So Kaizen costing are undertaken in specialized projects with a great focus on value analysis. So this is to ensure that the productions of the product will meeting the desired quality, usability, customer satisfaction, reasonable price. This is in order to maintain its competitiveness.
There's 5 advantages of Kaizen costing, which is customer satisfaction, problem solving, continuous improvement, reduce wastage, and also better work environment. So the first one is customer satisfaction. So Kaizen costing is a customers-oriented technique which focuses on providing better service to the consumers. So the second one is a problem solving. So it is one of the crucial functions of the Kaizen costing is to solve the identified problem in order to achieve the perfection on the business operation. And the third one is continuous improvement. So Kaizen costing is a technique which emphasizes on the betterment of product, process, project, and the organization. So the fourth one is reduce on wastage. So this is due to the better time management and material management in the Kaizen costing technique. So the wastage of the time and resources can be avoided. So the last one is better work environment. So Kaizen costing also promotes positive work environment for the employees and the management. So for example, like sharing canteen and the dress code. So it is a part of work culture that in many organizations.
Limitations of the techniques, also known as technical nogenkai. So there is three limitations of the technique, which is the burdens of the lower level management. Second one is the permanent change of the system, and the third one is the lack of training. So for the burdens of low level management, it is become very confusing and tedious for the bottom level management in order to adopt the change in the process of product, so implemented through the Kaizen costing. As for the permanent change, the change so implemented through the Kaizen costing is irreversible and it requires a lot of effort and the cost in withdrawing such decision. Last but not least is lack of training, which is a Kaizen costing requires a lot of expertise and a training. And if it is not implemented strategically, it may even lead to their first effects.
The other limitations of Kaizen costings is difficult to implement in the existing system. Enthusiasm could win easily, and the last one is the bad eggs could ruin the whole batch. So for difficult to implement existing system is where it is become very difficult task to change the entire management system of the business as it is already established. And then next is enthusiasm could wane easily. This is where employees might be very excited at the first to implement these changes, but their excitement become very aware when the changes adopted become very difficult. So the last one is a few bad eggs could ruin the whole batch is where if only some departments stick to the changes but some are not, so the overall output of the changes will be compromised. Why Kaizen costing is popularly adopted by corporation? So the first is because job satisfaction, company involvement, dedication, teamwork, and open-minded. So for job satisfaction, for Kaizen costing to work, the employee must be pleased with their jobs and be committed to working towards improving their performance. So the human resource team should conduct survey to determine the employee's attitudes and level of job satisfaction. Then, continuous effort should be made to improve working conditions and employees' job satisfaction metrics. Next is company involvement. So the entire organization must be committed to Kaizen. The management needs to allocate time to evaluate the workers' evaluation, and workers need to be given time to monitor the management as well. So the concept of Kaizen must be a priority. Next is for dedication. A Kaizen strategy need to be presented to the management and the employees as a method of improving the organization, productivities, and to add to the firm's long-term goals. So implementing Kaizen isn't easy. It requires dedication. Teamwork. So when an employee working with the Kaizen plan, which has make a question about the process, he or she need to be encouraged to seek the answers from as many people as possible. So employees need to learn to function as a team and respect every staff opinion. Last but not least is open-minded. So the management and employees need to have an open-minded for Kaizen to work. So Kaizen can be significant change from way of people accustomed to doing things, and constant performance analysis can seem unrealistic and pointless at times.
Let's go to the Kaizen costing process. Okay, this is the process of the Kaizen costing, which involve for the first step is to involve all the employees. After that, to identify the problem, and for the third step is to solving the solution. The fourth step is to implement the solution, and the fifth step is to evaluate, and the last step is to standardize the solution to the management. Okay, so what is the process is all about? Let's go to the next one. Let me explain to you the first step of Kaizen costing process, which is to involve employee. Okay, this process is to involve employee in implementing the changes. More employees involved this implementation, the more ideas can and information can get. Okay, what is the second step? The second step is to identify the problems. It is to involve all employees from all departments to take part in identifying the problems, such as overproduction, limited inventory storage, and assess defective product, and etc. Okay, so let's go to the third one. As for the third step is to solving the solution. Um, Basically, all the employees need to solve the problem, or they can form a team to finding a suitable solution for the problem arise. For the fourth step is to implement the solution. Okay, after all the employees agree on the solution, they can start to implement it. But they need to consider the cost and the risks of the solution. Therefore, it should be tested on the small part of the organization first. So let's go to the fifth one. For the fifth step is the evaluation process. In evaluation process, the implementation is being observed from time to time to evaluate the effectiveness of the method if it is produce a positive result. As for the last step of the Kaizen costing process is to standardize the solution. When the implementation produce a positive result, it's time to change it as a standard of procedure until there is new changes made by the organization in the future. Okay, so that's all for the Kaizen costing process. Let's go to the next subtopic. So now let's move on to the next subtopic, which is the comparison between re-engineering and Kaizen costing. So what is re-engineering? Re-engineering means the fundamental of rethinking and radical redesign of business processes to achieve dramatic improvements in critical contemporary measure of performance such as cost, quality, service, and speed. Okay, the definition means that it is to take a moment to think and redesign the process and take a big turn or changes in the structure. They have to use the new changes to be implemented in the structure or process. So let's move on to the comparison between re-engineering and Kaizen costing. So, as for the first one, who leads the re-engineering in finding the solution? Usually, in re-engineering, usually consultant, top management, and cross-functional project team involved in finding the solution with the problem arise. But in Kaizen costing, the people that actually do the work with a strong guidance in the early years by top management and a sensei. Sensei in this context means teacher in Japanese. So basically, what this means that employee also involved in finding the solution with the problem arise. Okay, the second one is the duration. As for re-engineering, it is a project with a defined beginning and end. And this means that re-engineering has a fixed period in implementing the solution and also make new changes in the process. But for Kaizen, it is a never-ending process. Every sub-process should be Kaizen repeatedly forever. Okay, in this context means that if the process has been implemented in new changes but does not come out with a positive result or it is not satisfactory, it can be changed to another solution or another new solution. So that's why it is said that it was a never-ending process. As for the third one is the scope of changes, which means that for re-engineering, it focuses on entire value stream process. Okay, so what is value stream process? The value stream process is the process that take the product or service from the beginning of the process until it reach the customer. It means that in re-engineering method, it takes a consideration for the whole situation in the value stream process in order to change it to the new changes. But what if but in Kaizen, although Kaizen usually starts with a kaikaku that address the entire value stream process, most Kaizen events focus on one specific sub-process. Okay, kaikaku in this context means a radical changes. So basically, even though that Kaizen also address the entire value stream process, Kaizen mostly focus on one sub process. It means that they only need to focus on the situation happen in only one sub process and then make a new changes. Only then they can move to another sub process. So that's why Kaizen events focus on one specific sub process. Okay, as the fourth one is the degree of changes. As I mentioned earlier, it is the same with the scope, which is for re-engineering. It only focus the whole situation and only then they can make the new changes. But in Kaizen, it only focus on the the situation that happened in the sub process. Only then they can move on to the next one. Okay, as for the speed of the process is in re-engineering, it generally implemented in a Big Bang changeover. Okay, so what is Big Bang changeover? Big Bang changeover is when everybody is associated with the old system moves to a fully functioning new system on a date on a date, which means that the method is fully implemented only when they already finding a solution for the whole process. Okay, but for Kaizen costing, each Kaizen event generates immediately noticeable and measurable changes. As I mentioned earlier, they only focus on only situation happen in a sub process. It is easier for the management and other people who involved in finding the solution to understand what happened with the problem and the solution that happens, and it is for easy for them to be implemented. Okay, as the last one is the cost of the implementation of the solution, which is for re-engineering often involves expensive technologies, computers, and other systems. Okay, so basically this means that when they make big changes in the entire value stream or process, mostly it involves a very expensive item, which is machineries, computers, and other technologies. But for Kaizen costing, it is not involving any machineries or any new system to be implemented. So that's why it is inexpensive or even free at the certain moment.
The application of Kaizen costing. The first company that implement the Kaizen costing is Toyota Motor Corporation. How Toyota implement the Kaizen costing? Kaizen costing was adopted by Toyota Motor Corporation to improve the productivity and efficiency in its production system. Toyota has applied Kaizen costing in the production system where it is implemented to eliminate the waste which the company identify the barriers muda which are related to the 8 types of waste that impact lean manufacturing. Thus, the Toyota production system has developed machines to improve flow and variation of products. The company also applied just-in-time method in order to avoid overproduction of their inventory. In early 1990s, Toyota encountered labor crisis, which is labor shortage and an aging workforce. The company used Kaizen to modify the assembly line and waste system in order to make them more human-friendly. The way to increase productivity or production efficiency was reducing the number of workers by Kaizen the production process for a given production volume under the constraint of just-in-time production. The just-in-time has been introduced by Taichi Ohno. It is an inventory strategy to increase efficiency and decrease waste by receiving goods. The amount of inventories are only needed as they are needed in the production process, so there will not be excess of inventory. The role of organized Kaizen activity that group leaders, chief leaders, and engineers are carrying out, and also the fact that their activity are centered not only upon productivity increases but also and more significantly upon the humanization of work after modification of the cost management system. The importance is given where to forming the Kaizen mind and teamwork in Toyota's sense, it means cooperation among company's members. These voluntary activities also allows workers to give attention in their operations to product quality, productivity, cost, and security. By carrying out Kaizen activities through quality circles and the suggestion system, even if they cannot realize an important Kaizen from economic viewpoint, the workers are eventually able to obtain the abilities required for becoming supervisory staff, given the fact that supervisory staff is selected from workers. For the reason, the emphasis is on the activities themselves. So by implementing the Kaizen costing, Toyota has made change in finance. Toyota cost reduction management starting from the target costing in the product development phase and carrying through to the Kaizen costing in the production phase. When a development of a new or revised vehicle is decided, its sales price and target or desired profit per vehicle are fixed by the top management that takes into the consideration of the market price and the new car's features that the sale division propose based on marketing and consumer analysis. As a result, the desired cost per vehicle is given automatically. This cost is called the target cost because it has to be attained first in the product design phase and then in the production process where this model and its part will be produced. After setting the target cost, the target costing is launched under the control of Cost Management Council or Target Costing Council.
Hi guys, I will explain to you the advantages of TAIT. First, help in reducing the inventory cost, result in decreased labor and also storage expenses that will one required to manage inventory. Second, waste reduction. Faster turnaround of inventory prevent goods becoming damaged or obsolete while sitting in storage. Third, fewer production error. Frequent inventory order allow for product defect to be spotted more easily. So, do you guys want to know how Kaizen costing was implemented in Toyota? Let's watch this video.
トヨタは昔からなるべく動力を使わないで車を作る工夫をしています。からくり改善はその一つです。こちらの改善はですね、ハンガーの力を使ってこの台車を引っ張ってます。作業が終わるとこちらのフックが外れてですね、この重りが下がる、この青い紐、これはですねマグロの釣り糸を使ってます。ウエイトが下がる力で紐が引っ張られてまた作業の位置に戻るというようなからくり改善です。からくりっていうのはすぐにうまくいくものじゃないんですよね。壊れたらもう一回もっと良くしようもっと良くしようっていうことでからくり改善をずっと継続していって、できた時には非常に自分たちにとってやったな達成感がある。でさらにもう次をやってみようというような思いで作ってますね。 エコの人9番、古井和彦。からくりってエコですよね。
So the other example of the company that adopt Kaizen costing is Unilever, Cadbury, Nestle, and Ford. So for Unilever, Cadbury, and Nestle, these three companies is focused on eliminating their waste, where for Unilever, they practically focus on reducing its wastage during my times at the company, as it doubled their production and reduced its carbon footprint by half. And for Cadbury, the reductions of waste on the assembly line. And for Nestle, they focus on lowering its time and material waste on their process. While for Ford company, Ford is implementing a standardization where they focus on implementing practices that allow them to make their process more efficient. So ways to improve Kaizen. So there is 5 ways to improve Kaizen, which is involving everyone in the company, challenging the status quo, be specific and focus on the right things, and the last one is a provide or conduct training. So for involving everyone in the company is where employees from all levels need to give suggestions and improvements on how to do their work. And for example, companies shall make a business improvement workshop to improve their business system. So challenging the status quo is where to get rid of the old ideas of how employees to do things and replace it with a new and improved version. So avoid emotional trap of blaming each other and making excuses that can prevent from discovering real problem. Be specific. So this is by using 5W and 1H approach, which to identify and search the roots of the problem raised. So apart from that, they must also set specific goals and ensure that employees understand the working towards it. So focus on the right things is where the company shall find and understand the major root of the problem. For example, the company should find ways on how to provide a greater value on its product and create a better experience for its customer. So when they are focusing on the right thing, low cost product can be created. Lastly, provide a conduct training. So providing training for the company can help on tackle unnecessary problem as the employees understand on how the company works, and they will strive to elevate standards by set by the company.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which is challenges in Kaizen costing. Okay, so the first one is time constraint. Time constraint can be duly surmounted in the implementation of Kaizen in a manufacturing firm. Okay, this means that manufacturing firm has their own goal in finishing the product. Using Kaizen costing will consume time as the process need to adapt with the new solution. Okay, for the second challenges is miscalculation in goal setting, which is poorly defined goals can turn out to be counterproductive to continuous improvement project. This means that it can lead to poor production in improving the project. Okay, so for the third challenge is lack of adequate resources. One of the most common and pressing challenges in the Kaizen implementation that prevent continuous improvement project. This means that even though the process does not incur any cost, however, lack of resources will occur in improving the process. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, for the fourth one is the internal and external resistance. Okay, for internal resistance, employees and regulatory bodies might fail to properly understand the objective and lead to technicalities of the process to produce the product. For external resistance, faulty and damaged product will give the chance for other competitors to come out a better product. Okay, so for the last challenges in Kaizen costing is inconsistency in efforts. The continuous improvement may demotivate the employees, as the employees will be bored and risking a reversion to the old ways that they used to do. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide.
Issue in Kaizen costing. First, Kaizen is seen as a short-term project. It is long-term improvement even though the concept of Kaizen is quite simple to understand. It is difficult to master it and also will need more time. Second, overemphasis on trying Kaizen to KPI. While it is important to tie Kaizen to KPI, overemphasis on it will ignore the fact that improvement. Third, implemented in heavily bureaucratic organization. Kaizen will never succeed on organization bogged down by bureaucratic mindset, filled with rules and procedure with people who will not resist any sort of changes. Fourth, training on Kaizen is not provided. Kaizen will never work if sufficient training is not provided. The last one is management does not support Kaizen activity. The importance of support cannot be overemphasized. It is essential that management to give a full commitment toward Kaizen costing.
A few moments later.